More than 2,000 years ago, in a small kingdom in northern Greece called Macedon, a boy was born who would change the history of the world. His name was Alexander, the son of King Philip II and Queen Olympias. From the very beginning, Alexander's life was touched by both greatness and mystery. His mother, Olympias, told him that he was descended from Achilles, the legendary Greek hero, and even from Zeus, the king of the gods. These stories filled the young boy with a sense of destiny. He believed he was born to do something no man had done before. As a child, Alexander showed signs of brilliance. He tamed a wild horse that no one else could control. While others were thrown off of its back, Alexander studied the animal carefully, noticed it was afraid of its own shadow, and turned it toward the sun. The horse became calm, and Alexander rode it easily. That horse, named Bucephalus, would stay with him for most of his life, carrying him into battles and becoming almost as famous as Alexander himself. When he was a teenager, Alexander was taught by Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers in history. Under his guidance, Alexander studied philosophy, politics, science, and medicine. But more importantly, Aristotle gave him a passion for knowledge and a belief that the world was much bigger than Greece. He told him of lands far to the east, of India, of strange people, and endless possibilities. Alexander carried Aristotle's teachings with him everywhere, along with a copy of Homer's Iliad, which he considered his personal Bible. At 16, when his father Philip went to war, Alexander was left in charge of Macedon. Rebels attacked, but Alexander did not hesitate. He raised an army, crushed them, and founded a city, naming it Alexandropolis after himself. This was the first glimpse of the conqueror he would become. But fate moved quickly. When Alexander was 20, King Philip was assassinated. Some said it was an enemy. Others whispered it was Olympias herself. No matter the truth, Alexander became king at an age when most young men were still students. And unlike most kings, Alexander wasted no time. His father had dreamed of invading Persia, the greatest empire of the time. Alexander decided not only to continue that dream, but to surpass it. With about 35,000 soldiers, Alexander crossed into Asia. His first battle was at the Granicus River. The Persians thought this young boy king would be easy to defeat, but Alexander charged into battle himself, fighting in the front lines with Bucephalus. His helmet was split, his armor bloodied, but he fought on and won. The Persians were stunned. This was no ordinary enemy. Soon came the Battle of Issus. The Persian king Darius III faced Alexander with an army several times larger. The ground shook with the marching of men, but Alexander's strategy was brilliant. He personally led a charge that broke through the Persian lines and forced Darius to flee, leaving his own family behind. Alexander treated Darius's wife and daughters with respect, an act that made even his enemies admire him. From there, Alexander moved south. The city of Tyre, built on an island, resisted him for months. But Alexander ordered a massive causeway built across the sea, turning the island into a peninsula. When Tyre fell, it was a brutal victory, but it showed the world that Alexander was unstoppable. In Egypt, he was welcomed as a liberator. At the temple of Siwa Oasis, the priest declared him the son of the god Zeus Ammon. To many, Alexander was now not just a king, but a living god. He founded a city on the Nile, Alexandria, which became one of the most famous cities in history. a center of learning and culture for centuries. But his greatest battle was yet to come, the Battle of Gaugamela. Darius assembled one of the largest armies the ancient world had ever seen. Tens of thousands of soldiers, war chariots armed with blades, even elephants. Alexander's men were outnumbered, but his tactics were unmatched. He waited, studied the battlefield, and then struck with lightning speed, leading his cavalry directly at Darius. Once again, the Persian king fled. With that, the Persian Empire collapsed, and Alexander became ruler of an empire stretching from Greece to the edges of India. Yet he was not satisfied. He marched further east, crossing deserts and mountains, chasing the horizon. At the Hydaspes River, he faced King Porus of India, a giant who fought with war elephants. The battle was brutal. Alexander's men had never faced elephants before, and fear spread through the ranks. But Alexander adapted quickly, breaking the elephants' formations and finally defeating Porus. Impressed by his courage, Alexander spared Porus and made him an ally. By now, Alexander had gone farther than any Greek before him. His empire stretched over 2 million square miles. But his men were exhausted. They had marched for years, fought countless battles, and were thousands of miles from home. When Alexander wanted to continue deeper into India, his soldiers refused. For the first time, Alexander's will could not push them further. Reluctantly, he turned back. The journey home was cruel. Crossing the Gedrosian desert, his army suffered terribly. Thousands died of thirst and hunger. Yet Alexander pressed on, still dreaming of new conquests, of Arabia and beyond. But destiny had other plans. In Babylon in 323 BC, Alexander fell ill after a banquet. For days he grew weaker. Some believed it was fever. Others whispered he had been poisoned. His generals asked him who should inherit his empire. Alexander, barely able to speak, said only, "To the strongest." At just 32 years old, the greatest conqueror in history was gone. His empire shattered into pieces as his generals fought each other. But his legend lived on. Cities he founded, like Alexandria, carried his name. His tactics are still studied in military academies today, and his dream of uniting East and West left a mark on history that never faded. Alexander the Great lived like a fire, burning brightly, conquering everything in his path, and leaving behind a story that has been told for over 2,000 years. Some saw him as a hero, others as a tyrant, but none could deny. He was a man who changed the world.